That weapon not doing enough damage for you? Let me get you started on mods. Heads up everybody, my name is Sentinel Gray and welcome to the channel. Welcome to part 4 in my beginner's guide to Warframe that's all about introducing you to mods. And for those of you who didn't catch that, introducing. This is a guide for beginner and new players, which means I'm not going to go over every little detail about mods like some people in my stream thought it was going to be. For you veteran Tenno out there, you gotta remember, this is for new players. I'm not trying to overwhelm them. Please try and keep that in mind. On a side note, if you'd like to hang out and take part in my streams, I stream every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday over on Twitch. You can find a link for that down below. But moving on. Honestly, I thought this video was going to be a lot longer, but I think I got everything that I wanted to cover in it, so let's get started. We'll begin with what each part of a mod means. Looking at this little pic that I took from the Warframe fandom page, speaking of which, if you literally need to learn anything about Warframe, just go there, because it is filled to the brim with all the information that you could ever need. Anyway, this image is going to help me explain to you what each individual thing is about a mod. After that, we'll move on to actual modding. So starting out with number 1, this is the name of the mod. Most of the time, this doesn't matter other than being the descriptor of, oh, do you have this mod? However, just like some of the equipment in this game, some mods have different variations. You see that this is Umbral Vitality. There's also a regular Vitality and a Enhanced Vitality mod, but Enhanced Vitality is used for your companion specifically. It's worth noting too that you cannot put two of the same type of mod on an item. For example, you can't use both Umbral Vitality and regular Vitality on the same frame. Moving on to number 2, this is the item the mod can be placed on. It can be as broad as swords, shotguns, or warframes, or as specific as naming particular items like the Burst and Prime or Gara. Number 3 is a place for a few different things. On the mod shown in particular, on the border you see that there's a seal at the top, basically where number 3 is. That means it's part of the Umbral set. This can actually change per mod, and sometimes there are particular symbols that indicate that certain things can happen or they belong in certain mod sockets. It can be a number of different things, but you'll see later. Number 4 is a big thing for mods in Warframe. This shows a mod's drain and polarity. The drain of a mod is how much energy it takes from your particular piece of equipment. So as an example, this Umbral Vitality mod takes 16 energy to socket. That means in a Warframe you put it on with the max rank of having a max of 30 energy, you only have 14 energy remaining after you place this mod on there. Now we move on to polarity. Polarity is basically a matching game. If you match the polarity of a mod to the polarity of the socket on an item, that mod costs half as much. So using the same Umbral Vitality, for example, if you socket this mod into a slot of the same polarity, its cost gets reduced from 16 to 8, now leaving you with 22 energy left over. On the opposite side of that, if you socket a mod that has a different polarity than the socket itself, the energy charge for that mod then increases by 25%. Number 5 is an indication of power. This is a mod's rank. The higher the rank of the mod, the more powerful the mod is. As an example, this Umbral Vitality mod starts out with a 40% health increase and a 1% Tau resistance at base. But because this mod is max rank, it's going all the way up to 440% health and 11% Tau resistance. So, the higher the rank, the more powerful the mod is. At the same time though, increasing the rank of the mod also increases its drain, so be aware as you upgrade mods that you have enough energy for their drain. Number 6 just tells you how many of a certain mod you have. If you have duplicates, this is where you'll find the number to how many duplicates you have. A thing to note is that, for example, if you have 2 of the same mod but at different ranks, they will not be lumped together as duplicates. They will show up as 2 separate mods because they are of separate rank. Number 7 is showing just straight up rarity. This will tell you how rare the mod is, which could be great if you want to buy and sell and trade them. To make the rarity easier to understand, here is a small graphic for it. It goes common, uncommon, rare, legendary, and finally Riven. Riven mods are extremely unique, and I will not actually be going over them in this video since this is still a beginner's guide. Most beginners don't actually have access to Rivens almost at all. Now let's talk about your mod console. Your mod console is where you can manage all of the mods that you own. You can infuse them to increase their rank, transmute them for a chance at a rare mod, sell them straight up for credits, or dissolve them into a material called Endo. Yes, there's that I-10 sculpture statue thing on the far right, but don't worry about that for this video. So out of all of these things that you can do with your mods, there are only two that I suggest that you never do as a new player. That would be transmute and sell. Transmuting mods does give you a chance at a rare mod, but it's only a chance. You have a far better chance of getting that mod out and about while playing the game than through this method. A lot of the mods in the game you can only get by doing specific activities or certain things throughout the game, so there's no chance of you getting those mods through here. As for selling, no mod is worth credits in my opinion unless you have a butt ton of mods and like absolutely no credits. And even if you do, there's an easier way to get credits that doesn't take sacrificing your mods. The two main things you'll want to do here is infuse and dissolve. Starting with dissolving, you can take a whole bunch of mods that you have duplicates for and turn them into Endo, the primary material in upgrading mods. Endo you'll get out and about on missions, so you don't always have to dissolve mods in order to get the Endo you need. Now moving on to fusion, this is where you upgrade your mods to the next rank. You can choose to upgrade mods either one rank at a time or take them as high as that you want to go. Just be aware that the higher the rank, the more Endo and credits it'll cost you. In the beginning, you'll have to pick and choose which mods will do the best for you since you'll have very little of each, but as a tip, I would suggest upgrading all the mods that pertain to damage first. As an example, Pressure Point is a mod for melee weapons that just flat out increases your damage. There's mods that do this for every particular type of weapon in the game like rifles, shotguns, and pistols. If you upgrade these mods first, it'll help you out whenever you feel like enemies are a little too strong in the health department for you. Let's move on to actually modding something. We'll start with the primary weapon since primaries and secondaries are a little different than melees and warframes. Just as a disclaimer, I'm going to be using a max rank weapon for this, so we'll have all 30 energy to work with. I'm going to be using my Baza here as a way to help you understand. So starting out, the very first thing you'll want to do is put your damage mod on. Any weapon you get, you should put the damage mod on for that certain type as soon as you can so that you have that straight up damage bonus right out the gate. And because the Baza has a socket that has the same polarity as our Serration mod, it'll cost half as much. I said before in a previous video that when equipping mods, it's far better option to go with quality over quantity. As an example, it's much better to have your gun do twice as much damage as compared to being 5% more accurate with a 2% higher crit chance and a 0.1 second faster reload. The second thing you'll want to look for, and this is only on primary and secondary weapons, you want to look for a mod with multi-shot. For primary weapons, it's called Split Chamber. This mod can essentially double your damage output of your weapon. So instead of your gun shooting one bullet at a time, it shoots two without taking the extra ammo to do so. Anyway, after you socket your damage mod and your multi-shot mod, you'll want to build into the strengths of the gun. For example, the Baza here has a much higher crit chance than it does a status chance, so I want to kind of lean into that more. For me, I want to slot in my critical delayed mod that increases my natural crit chance by 200%, but decreases my fire rate by 20%. Since this gun fires so quickly, it's a trade I am more than happy to make. Now, just with these three mods, you'll see at the top left of the screen that I literally have no energy in the weapon left. There are two ways to fix that. First is to polarize a mod socket. To polarize a socket, you first have to get the weapon to the absolute max rank that it can go to. After that, you go down and select to where it says actions. You'll see 5 different options pop up, but what we want right now is polarize. Polarizing a socket costs something called a forma, which looks like a little puzzle piece. These forma can be gained in a number of different ways, but are one of the more rare things in the game to get. By selecting the polarize option and spending a forma, you can choose any of the sockets on your piece of gear to make whatever polarization you want, all except for Umbra. The Umbra polarization requires you to spend an Umbral forma, which is a thing that I'm not going to go into. After you polarize a socket to whatever polarization you want, the weapon instantly goes back down to rank 0, which means you have to level it up all the way again. Believe me, I get it, it sucks, but once you're pretty deep in the game, this doesn't even remotely bother you. Hell, you might get to the point where some of my friends are, where you just take a bit of time to fully polarize a weapon immediately after getting it to max rank, which for having to level an item around like 8 or 10 times doesn't actually take too terribly long as you know what you're doing. It's safe to say though that in this game, once you play it for a while, everything starts to become a lot easier. In this case, leveling. Other cases, it may be material farming or whatever. The more you play, the easier it gets for you. Next, you might ask if we can increase that 30 total energy anymore, because even with the polarized mod sockets, it's still not enough. You can with an Orcan Catalyst, since this is a weapon. Warframes take instead an Orcan Reactor to increase their capacity. Either way, they're a bit more rare than Forma and can double your energy capacity once installed instantly. So that energy goes from 30 to 60 without a thought. And just as a heads up to you being a new player and all, you'll only want to use these Forma, Orcan Reactors, and Orcan Catalysts on something you'll be keeping around for a while, or actually want to invest in, like a Prime or something similar. But now that you have 60 energy, you have more freedom to mess around with mods and builds. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, so I apologize. I will lead back around into modding in a second. There are 13 different types of damage in the game that you can deal. 3 of them are physical, with impact, puncture, and slash, and 4 of them are the base elementals of heat, cold, electric, and toxic. Now, the remaining 6 are a combination of the 4 elementals, and I actually have a chart here for you if you want to take a look at it. They are radiation, corrosive, viral, blast, magnetic, and gas. All of these different damage types do different things to different enemies along with their shields, armor, and health, and all of that. Overall, there's not one type of damage that is the best for everything. But also, it doesn't matter so much that you need to kit your weapons and everything out for it every single mission you go on. I'm just giving you this information because of what I'm going to go over next. Going back into your upgrade menu, let's just say that you have a gun that you want to build out for status chance. Hell, you don't even have to have a gun that you want to build out for status chance. Let's just say that you want to put some different damage types on your gun. It's worth knowing that the game reads mods on your gun similar to a book, from left to right, top to bottom. So it'll read the top row first, then move down to the second row and read the mods in the order that way. So you put your elemental damage type mods on in just any random socket, and let's just say you have cold, electric, and toxin in that order. If you have them in that order on your mod chart, the game will read it as, oh, you want to combine cold and electric and then have toxin left over? Cool. And you get the
magnetic. It's magnetic. I screwed up in the recording. Sorry. It's magnetic.
damage type with toxin left over. Now let's change around toxin and cold. Now the game reads it as, oh, toxin plus electric with cold damage left over. Okay. And gives you the corrosive damage type with cold left over. Do you understand how that works? It's something to keep in mind as you play, so that if you ever want to do a specific type of damage, you can do so and mod it that way without any problems, without you sitting there for hours going, why isn't this working? Why isn't this damage type popping up? This is why. Let's move on to melee weapons, since they are just a little different. Melee weapons get modded very similarly to primaries and secondaries. The only difference is that every melee weapon has the ability to be socketed in with a special type of mod called a stance. As the name suggests, the stance changes the way that your frame fights with that particular weapon. Not only that, but slotting a stance gives you a bonus to energy for that weapon that you can use on mods. So instead of having like 30 energy at max base without, putting a catalyst in it, you have, like, let's just say 38 energy because of the stance mod that you have socketed in it that matches the polarity. Of course, if you socket a mod that doesn't match the polarity, it'll still give you a bonus in energy, just not as much. These stances can really help your melee weapons get to some incredibly powerful places, so make sure the first thing you do on any melee weapon is socket a stance, even if it doesn't match the polarity. For Warframes, it's the same, but also different. For Warframes, they're called auras, and have certain effects that happen to affect your Warframe, like increased melee damage, or energy regen, or health regen, all those types of different things. Like stances, these add to your overall energy for the frame, which leads to placing more powerful mods. Match the polarization and get a bonus. Don't match them and you still get a bonus, just not anywhere near matching the polarities would. If you want to know a little bit about late game mods for Warframe, almost all of the frames in the game each have their own set of mods called augments that only affect them and their abilities. These augments can change the way their abilities act, like having Excalibur's dash being able to remove debuffs and also restore you and your allies' shields. These are all just the basics of mods in Warframe. There are much deeper systems behind them if you're willing to look and take the leap. Remember, use my videos as a jumping off point. There's still so much to Warframe that I haven't covered, and honestly so much that I probably will never cover because of the sheer scope of the game. But if this video helped you and you'd like to help me out, please be sure to leave a like on the video and comment if you have any questions about anything I could possibly clear up. If you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe because I'll be putting out a few more videos on Warframe for this beginner's guide, though I actually might slow down a little bit. We'll see. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you all next time. And remember, keep your heads up and be kind to each other. Bye now.